Thanks for coming back to Swim Lessons, the podcast. I'm your host, Dallas Hanson, and today concludes our AA podcast monologue, if you will, of AA football in Montana, and we end with the champ. The state championship head coach is Levi Wesche of Bozeman High. Coach Wesche is the head football coach at Bozeman High School. Coach Wesche, I don't say this about everybody, but he was a truly amazing human being, and getting to know him was an honor of mine. He actually invited me into his home to do the podcast and showed me around. He's one of those people who is very genuine and someone you just know would be successful no matter what he did with his life. This past year, his team, Bozeman High, went on to win the AA state football championship. And not only did they win it, but they went undefeated. I hope everyone enjoys this conversation that entails not only football, but life lessons and getting an insight into Coach Wesche's life, which he's a true friend, and I really enjoy the guy. But before we get to Coach Wesche, we got to talk a little bit about some of our sponsors. And our sponsor today is who other than ProSafe. ProSafe is a locally owned and operated company since 2000 out of Williston, North Dakota. It's a name you can rely on. They offer expert pest control, ground sterilization, as well as red rock for oil field production. Give ProSafe a call at 701-774-3167 or check them out at www.prosafe.com, PROSAFE.com. Next up is Henny's Coffee. I love this place, dude. It's the best. Henny's Coffee, which is located in beautiful downtown Crosby, North Dakota, right here on Main Street. They not only have coffee and espressos, but also have Zingers, which is a flavored drink with Red Bull in it, along with all types of baked goods. I like Henny's because it's an all-time vibes place, no matter what time of the day or what you're doing, where you're meeting people at. Just go in there, take a seat. I edit podcasts from there all the time, and they got good music, good vibes, everything like that. Find out what Henny's is all about by finding them on Facebook at Henny's Coffee. That's HENNYS Coffee, or give them a ring at 701-965-2182. Next up is Up Top. Up Top, the clothing company. They're great. They're phenomenal. They're huge. Up Top grew from the ground up, and that's why roots are so important to the team at Up Top. Up Top was formed in Butte, Montana from its founders of Luke and Colt Anderson. Up Top continues to be designed in Montana with Butte's tough as nails mantra, which is very true. We filmed a few episodes there. They're tough folks out there. With apparel for both men and women. Check them out on social media at UpTop, UPTOP, or just online at teamuptop.com. Next up is Tegan's Interior. Tegan's Interior is located in Crosby, North Dakota. They offer all types of products, which include shades, blinds, flooring, or lighting. Anything you need when remodeling your home or building that dream home. Reach out to Tyler and Nikita Swanson at Tegan's Interior. That's Tegan's, TEAGANS Interior.com. Or give them a call to schedule an appointment at 701-965-6367. And last but not least, I'm a guy, I love to eat. I love a good hamburger or a good steak. So call Glosso Angus. Glosso Angus is a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons. Glosso Angus is your premier source for registered Black Angus cattle since 1973. So they've been around the block a couple times. Glosso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and are built to thrive on the northern plains. Check out glossoangus.com. That's Glosso, Glasoe, Angus.com. And check out their website. They do a lot of cool social media stuff too with their cattle company. I know they had a drone going over when they were moving their cows home for winter, so it was pretty cool. I honestly enjoyed it. As always, thanks for listening. I just want to also thank all the AA football coaches in Montana that were able to make this possible, and also the Booster Club for Billings West High School and the Bozeman High Booster Club. If it weren't for all you guys, this wouldn't have been possible. And don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on all your notifications on YouTube so you can get a alert when we go live with someone new. But without a doubt, and no more intros, I give you the champ. The champ is here. The champ is here. Levi Wesche of Bozeman High.
Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
Coach, thanks for doing this today. I appreciate it. Opening up your home, too. This is great.
Yeah, Christmas around us everywhere, so.
Got out of a trip to Costco, though, I mean.
Yes. Or as my wife says, a trip to the meat market. So.
Well, it's been an interesting year for you coaching-wise. As we were walking in, in your garage, we saw kind of the state championships and the run you guys have had here at Bozeman. What has it been for you this past year? What's it been like? Has it just been a whirlwind, or
so fast? I don't know. Probably one of the most rewarding years of my life. I feel like, when we won it in 19, there was just a lot of outside factors, a lot of craziness in my own life. Like my wife had just gotten pregnant, so just didn't know what was going on. A lot of uncertainty. And then this year, we thought we could be good. Obviously, we had a pretty good year the year before, being runners up, but kind of an unknown at the quarterback spot. Had to replace some guys that were top 3 I've ever coached at their positions, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
So kind of got out of the gate a little slow and had a tough game against Helena, and it was like all of a sudden we built up steam, and you blink your eyes, and while Helena feels like a year or two ago, it's 3 months, and and even the state championship game itself right now feels like, man, that was a year ago. Like, I don't know. It's been really cool. But yeah, blink your eyes and it's gone. So
yeah. Well, before we got on here, we were talking a little bit about kind of where you came from, where you kind of grew up, and I'd like you to take us back really quick because I thought that was really interesting. So when did you kind of fall in love with the game of football?
Well, for me, it was probably, I don't know, probably 3rd or 4th grade. My dad was a big fan. He's a big Chiefs fan.
Good guy, sounds like.
But he just always talked about football, and we watched a lot of football growing up together, and I just really fell in love with the sport. But I was lucky enough to play college football at MSU Northern. They took a chance on a guy that probably wasn't physically ready coming out of high school, and I thought I was gonna be a farmer. I thought I was gonna be a farmer and a rancher, and work on my grandparents' place and take it over someday. And I was really happy with that.
Yeah.
So really college was about, I get to play 5 more years of football, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then go and be a farmer. And and then when I was a sophomore in college, my grandpa passed away unexpectedly. And, my whole life changed. And I was going into education anyway, because that was going to be my degree. My mom was an elementary school teacher. And she went to Northern too, and was just kind of following that step. She seemed to really enjoy her job. So I was getting a degree in that, but I had no intentions of being a teacher at that point in time. And so lo and behold, Grandpa passes away. I've got to find a new career route. And I remember before my senior year of college, Mark Sampson saying, "Hey, do you want to be a GA next year?" And I was like, well, hell yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds great. I just want to stay involved with football as much as I can, and just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. So, okay, so you get the GA spot, and then where do you go after that? Do you apply for a few different schools to use your teaching degree, or?
Well, the crazy thing, like, I guess it was student assist, GA, whatever you want to call it, but he was going to pay for my last semester of school completely. Okay. So I helped out with the offensive line, and then I student taught at Haver High. Kevin Suka was my supervising teacher, him and Dennis Murphy, and they let me coach college football. Like, they even let me miss some days during student teaching, which I don't know that any of my student teachers would get away with now.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that, and again, just fall more and more in love with the motivational side of everything. Mark was an incredible motivator. He could chew your butt, but still make you feel like $1 million, like you would run through a wall for him. And he just got done using every 4-letter word in the book on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And I wanted to learn how to do that. Like, how does a guy get under your skin and push the right buttons and make you that loyal? And he was so great at it. There was something there that was really attractive about that.
Well, how did he do that? Do you think it was like a respect thing, or what do you?
Because he was the only one allowed to do that. That was part of it. Like, anyone else, man, and he'd had your back. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You didn't talk to Mark's players. You didn't badmouth them. In the community, he always had your back. If you weren't towing the line, he was going to get on you, or you weren't playing the way you should, he was going to get on you. But man alive, I tell you what, you never talked to one of Mark's players. You never said anything bad about him, because you better be ready for an argument or a tussle, because he had your back.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good dude. Now let's fast forward a little bit to Bozeman High School.
Yeah.
How do you get to Bozeman, and kind of what's the backstory there?
Okay, so I accepted a offensive and defensive line coaching position at Haver High, and was going to be a long-term sub. Didn't really want to leave Havre. I was pretty comfortable there. I was living pretty decently. Had this 1-bedroom apartment, felt like I was king of the world. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need to do anything else to be happy. And then Mark Sampson again, got a call from Troy Purcell, who was down here, Troy asked if he had any kids that had teaching degrees who were looking to be coaches, and he threw my name in the hat. So I'm in my driver's ed class, learning to be a driver's ed instructor, and I get a call from Mark, says you need to apply for this job. And, I had done a couple other coaching, teaching interviews, and I hadn't gotten anything great other than the Havre job. So I was like, well, all right, I'll throw my name in the hat.
Yeah.
I literally turned in my app that day, got a call the next day, interviewed the day after that, and got the job the same day. So 3 days. 3 days I got hired as a freshman health enhancement teacher on a 1-year only contract, coaching freshman football for Troy down here. And that was 17 years ago. I've been here ever since. So
That was 17 years ago.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so you start out kind of at a low man on the totem pole, if you will, just doing lineman stuff. When did you, because you were telling me you became the OC, is that right? Your offensive coordinator?
Yeah. So I was a freshman offensive line coach in 2007. 2008, I was the varsity offensive line coach.
Okay.
And then I was varsity offensive line until 2011. And then Troy made me and Jeff Renevere, who was a receivers coach, co-offensive coordinators. We called plays together and did everything together. And then halfway through that year, things were going real well. Troy's like, well, we're going to mix it back up. I'm going to go back to calling plays. You guys are going to go back to your position areas. And so we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the rest of 2011, and then halfway to 2012, just back to O-line. And then halfway through the season, Troy goes, all right, guys, I'm going to have you guys start calling offense again. And we did, and we made a run to the championship game and lost to Butte, and then was the offensive coordinator from 2013 through 2016 when I got the head job, and then I called plays from those first 4 years. I was the head coach. I called plays as well.
One of the interesting questions that I love asking all you AA coaches in Montana was, what was the interview process like when you were applying for the head coaching job? Did you come up with like a pretty thick booklet?
Oh man, I got a binder that's probably, I don't know, an inch thick. I took Troy gave me a bunch of his stuff too. It's funny because as guys continue to ask to apply for this stuff, like how much do you go in with? How prepared are you? Well, I took everything I could think of and threw it into a binder, what practices would look like, what our off-season schedule would look like. Mm-hmm. I had a staff put together in the beginning of the book, said this is what it's going to be like. The binder on the front said continuing a winning tradition. You know what I mean? Just because we had come off a state title in 15 before Troy took his coaching job over at Idaho. So, yeah, it was just as much as I could put in there to show them that I was prepared to be a head coach, that I knew a lot about what we were doing. And obviously was offensive coordinator, so the offensive side of the ball was stuff, but really had to do a deep dive into learning more and more about our defense and everything else. But, yeah, I went in there as prepared as I could.
Yeah. Was it a long interview or what was it like?
It was about an hour long. I'm sitting in front of, and like, I've been on a lot of interview committees, and they're usually not over like 4 or 5 people now that I've been on.
Yeah.
This one had 12 people and a player rep.
Oh, wow.
A
player rep.
Yeah.
So it was like a high school kid?
Yeah.
Really?
So, he was he was a senior on the state championship team. So he was going to be graduating because I did the interview in March, or no, I'm sorry. I take that back. It was in April. It was in the middle of track season because I was the head track coach at that time. Mm-hmm. And then, but the young man was Trace Bradshaw, and was all-state running back, defensive tackle, ended up going and play for the Grizz for a year.
Oh, wow.
But a really good player, good kid. But he was in on that, and so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He stood up for me in the middle of the meeting and said, that he thought that playing for me was one of the best experiences of his life. I'm sure that had no small influence on those guys.
Yeah. That had to have been a good feeling.
It was a great feeling. I'm an emotional guy anyway, especially when it comes to football. So, you talk about the stuff you're proud about, and, you get a little choked up at times during the interview or whatever. But, I was very raw. I was very real. I mean, and I'm not, maybe this doesn't come across as that to everybody out there, but, I'm not the most loquacious guy. I don't talk a ton, pretty terse and get to the point, and then that's done. And so I think they actually appreciated that about me in the interview process.
Well, okay, so you get the job and you're excited. What is like one of the first steps when you're taking over the program that you want to be like, hey, this is what we're going to be like, this is what we're going to do?
Well, for me, as the first thing is get your coaching staff together. talk to them, make sure everyone wants to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of done that in advance, talked to all the assistants and said, hey, I'm going for this. I actually had 2 of the guys that were on staff pull me aside and said, hey, you're applying because we want to coach with you.
No shit.
So that was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
One of those guys was Nate Wall, who ended up being the head coach at Skyview here for the last 5 years or whatever.
Okay.
And ended up being my DC for my first 2 years. But so you talk to them, but then, you call a team meeting, I think was the first thing I did. And I had worked with the guy that followed Troy at Haver High. So Troy won the first state title at Haver High in like 38, 40 years. And the guy that followed him, Kevin Suka, was a great dude, but I saw a lot of the problems. Like the community really put Troy on a pedestal. Then Troy comes here and wins the first state title in 93 years. And I'm on his staff and all that, and that's great. But, I knew just watching what had happened before, I was not going to come in and try and beat Troy.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I told the kids when I walk in that meeting is, hey, I'm not Troy Purcell, and I'm not going to try and be. I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
So if you guys think that I'm Coach P, I'm not. So that was the biggest thing for me from the beginning. Has always been, don't try and be something I'm not. Don't try and be Coach Purcell, because him and Coach Sampson are my 2 greatest coaching mentors. I would do anything for those guys. They got me going in this. But man, if you've ever met Troy Purcell, he's one of a kind. If you try and fake that, kids notice fake faster than anybody.
Yeah.
So that was going to be the end of me. I was never going to earn their trust if they thought I was some
fake
guy.
Do you think that's a big thing in coaching, to let your personality show?
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think being genuine to who you are is very important. Like at times I'm a very explosive and angry guy, and I try to be very even keel all the time, and I'm really good during games, but practices get ratcheted up, and I get kind of growly.
Get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not doing your job, you're going to hear about it. But I'm also the guy that I think that's the first one there patting you on the butt, being just as loud when you do it right and celebrating with you. And so kids want to be held accountable. I truly believe that, but they also want to be celebrated when they do it right. And
right.
And I think I try and make sure that every day I'm telling them how much I care about them, how much I love them, because I do. And if you only see the angry, the grouchy side, then you're not going to fall in love with that. It becomes white noise. But if someone that really cares about you is yelling at you, you kind of go, ooh, I better figure this out.
I might have screwed up. Yeah. That's a good point. I like that, Coach. That was really well said. One of the main questions I've been asking, and you're the last coach I'm going to interview for the AA Montana coaches, but because you were just telling me kind of your journey, you've been around the game quite a bit. What does AA football in Montana mean to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I actually ask our kids. That's one of my questions on my exit interview is, what does playing Hawk football mean to you?
Yeah.
AA football to me is the highest, classification, the highest quality football you're going to play in the state of Montana. Every coach is a great coach. There's so many good players, and the talent pool in our league is so deep. I think to me, it means that if you're winning games at our level, 1 game, 2 games, any games, you're doing a great thing, because it's not easy to win here. I think that's what I take away from it, is it's a difficult, trying profession. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody that can go out there and win a game or 2 of any amount, like, that's special, because there's so many good coaches in our league, and there's so many good players. The level of coaching is something I never thought that, when I first got into coaching, you just don't know what high school coaches are like.
Yeah.
But man, there's so many good coaches out there. So yeah, it's a challenge every week. It's fun though.
Yeah.
And I'll also say this, there's a cool just brotherhood amongst the Montana AA head football coaches. Like that. A lot of mutual respect, but I think your friends end up being the guys, right, that you have shared experiences with. You have common goals and interests, and those are all those guys. So like we get together at AA meetings or coaches clinics or whatever, and we all hang out, and it's really cool to just sit down and have a frosty beverage with those guys and enjoy being around them. But yeah, it's a really cool brotherhood, and very lucky to be a part of it for sure.
That's awesome. That was well said. Okay, so now let's jump back to Bozeman High. So you have some success, but I really want to talk about this last year, because it sounds like you had a hell of a team. Yeah. What was your guys' record? 12-0?
Yeah, we're 12-0.
12-0. Okay, so going into the year, and this is a big one, how high were the expectations? Were they pretty high?
Yeah.
Were you ranked 1 going into the season?
No, we weren't. I think we were ranked 2 or 3. It depended on what poll you looked at, too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think Glacier was number 1 in most polls.
Okay.
There was, I'll credit, there was a Billings, I think the 406 MT Sports poll had us as number 1 at the beginning of the year. But most polls had us as number 2 to Glacier or 3. They had Gallatin and Glacier right there, too. We're all in the mix. So,
Gallatin was in there.
Yeah, so they were like a top 3 team early
No
on
kidding.
as well, yeah.
Okay. So did you have a point in the year where, after a couple games, you're like, okay, we got something special here? Or was there ever kind of a lull in the season at all that you'd want to share? Or
Oh, yeah, there was. Well, I think starting out of the gate against Helena High, I thought Helena High was a top 4 team preseason. And I think if they stay healthy, they still were. They're a great football team, a lot of talent there. But we struggled, offensively, we weren't clicking very good that first game. And defensively, we were kind of had a bugaboo early in the year about giving up big touchdowns. Like we weren't giving up very many points or very many yards, but we were giving up 1 touchdown of like 40 yards or more in our first 4 games. And it was super frustrating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and actually the streak lasted through 6 games. It lasted all the way through the Gallatin game. I think
40
plus yard touchdown of some kind.
Really?
And I take that back. It was through till CMR.
Wow.
We gave up 1 touchdown a game of 40 yards or more. And we had at one point when we played Skyview week 3, we had 1 clip of our defense inside the 20. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And we had only given up like 4 touchdowns at that point. But the problem was all 4 of those touchdowns were 40 yards or more. So, there was a lot of concern, just like, are we going to be able to, like, that's how we lose games. I mean, coaches, we always talk about turnover margin, no big plays. And we were giving up a lot of big plays. And then offensively, could not get out of our way. We had a couple bad turnovers at certain points, fumbles that just really cost us early on. And then penalties, especially in the Butte game.
False starts or holdings?
False starts, all of it. I mean, you name it, we were finding a way kind of to kill drives and played really, scored with 20 seconds left to beat Helena High on a game that's, on a play that's pretty controversial. There's a couple different views of
what happened.
Did he catch it? So it was running back wheel route down the outside. Jack O'Brien, great throw by Kellen. Jack O'Brien catches it. And from certain views, it looks like he never had control. Kid put his helmet right on the ball and it squirts out. Certain viewpoint, he had control. He crossed the goal line. It's a touchdown.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So depending on, there's so many different ways you could go about it.
Yeah.
Damn. But now we were tied and it was first down and there was still a minute left in the game when we got it. So it's not like that was be all end all, but there was controversy there. So I think, maybe some people thought not a well-earned victory, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I would say we didn't play well enough to say it was a well-earned victory either. And then we go to Butte and we're down to Butte most of the first half.
How bad down?
7 points, but we fight back, tie it up, then they go and score again.
What was that atmosphere like?
It was so much fun.
That place is awesome.
It's so cool. And I'm so glad our kids got to experience it because our kids that were seniors this year were freshmen when we won it in 19 there.
Okay.
So we won it in Naranchi in 19. And so they were 8th graders sitting in the stands. Quaid Ash's brother was actually on the team playing. So all those kids, there's a dad showed me a picture and it was all those kids with signs in the stands when they were 8th graders.
Oh, wow.
It was super cool.
Yeah.
But to go back and play in that stadium again, I wish every high school kid could experience what it's like to play Butte High at Naranchi because the fans are amazing. That town is amazing. The way they get behind their sports teams is just, it's one of a kind.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a great atmosphere at Bozeman High every Friday night. But some of it's the way it's the stadium set up. All the noise comes off those stands, hits that brick building that is their high school and bounces back. And the state championship game in 19 is the loudest environment I've ever been in my entire life.
No shit.
And I've been to a Chiefs game at Arrowhead and I've been to Seattle and I can never remember feeling it something like noise in your chest before. And that's what it was like in that pregame at Naranchi in 19. So we struggled early on. But I think what we found was we had a really good playmaker at quarterback and he was starting to do some really special things with the ball, getting more and more comfortable every week. Mm-hmm. And then up front, we knew we were good, so we knew we had a chance. Our offensive and defensive lines were pretty talented. Mm-hmm. So, it was not an easy year,
right,
by any stretch of the imagination. But it was
12-0 though. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What's when as a head coach, when it reaches zeros in the fourth quarter and you win it and you win the state championship, but what is that feeling like to win a state championship in AA football, Montana?
Relief. I hate to say it. And I'm not trying to be, like overly dramatic, but it was relief. Because that was the expectation we set for ourselves going into the season, is we wanted to win the state championship. We wanted to get back to it and actually win it, because we got beat the year before, and pretty handily too. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
we wanted to redeem ourselves. We wanted to give our kids that chance. We knew we had a lot of returners, but yeah, it was relief. It felt amazing. It was like, and our kids set so many like new like records for our school, and just what we've gone through since the split. At one point 3 years ago, only having 57 total kids on our team. I said this at our banquet, and I said it maybe to the radio once or twice too. It was like, I had a parent call me this summer before 2021 and say, I heard you guys are dropping your football program because you're not going to have enough kids.
What?
And that stung.
Oh
stung.
My gosh.
I still hold that every day when I get up and go to work. I think about that a lot and be like, you know what? They said we were never going to get back to this point. When we split, I remember people saying, well, you're going to be good the first year, but it'll be a long time before you guys are relevant again. And, I marked it out or whatever, and it was we were, as a head coach, I was 35-11 before the split, and as a head coach, I'm 32-11 since the split.
Well, that's a good feeling.
So
yeah, that's
we
good.
haven't gone away yet, and hopefully we won't. But yeah, I think the rest of the state always blamed Bozeman was only good because we have all these kids. Well,
right.
We have a lot of quality kids. We got some quality coaches and some really good admins. So, I mean, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, that's okay. So we've been at this for about 25 minutes. I have 2 segments left.
Okay.
This segment is called 10 for 10, and it's 10 questions. There's no right or wrong answer, but you do have to answer them as quick as possible, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely.
My name is Dallas. You remember that, right?
Yes, I remember.
Perfect. All right, 10 for 10, and away we go. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
Palm trees or evergreen trees?
Evergreen.
Lake or ocean?
Lake.
Favorite actor?
Ooh, man, I'm trying to go fast here, but Liam Neeson.
Okay. Oh, good pick. Favorite band or rapper?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot because I have so many. Growing up, I'll say Rage Against the Machine.
Okay. Oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet. What city in Texas has an NBA mascot nicknamed the Mavericks?
Dallas.
What city in Texas has an NFL team nicknamed the Cowboys?
Dallas.
What city in Texas spelled backwards reads salad?
I don't know if it's the correct spelling, but I'm going to go say Dallas.
Yeah. Who is your favorite podcaster and new best buddy?
Oh, easy, Dallas.
Appreciate you, Coach. And swim lessons is about overcoming the tough times. That's what we created this podcast for. And
sure,
not every day can be the best day, but what's something that you kind of say to yourself when your back's against the wall and maybe you're not feeling the greatest, but you gotta put on a good face and keep up with the hope?
Yeah. One thing I tell myself is these kids are watching you. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
When we used to lose out of the playoffs or whatever, Troy would take the week off and go hunting. And I would stay and I would help out with everything and it was tough, right? I mean, you go through a loss and you want to just get away.
Yeah.
And take time for yourself. My big thing's always been I'm going to show up at school the next day, on Monday. Because these kids need to know, like, we're not done. Like, we still got stuff to do. The world is going to keep turning. Mm-hmm. Life has not stopped because we lost a football game or lost out of the playoffs or this season ended. Yeah. So show up. I'm going to get up the next day and I'm going to show up for the kids and let them see, like, okay, this is what the example should be, is like, I had a rough day yesterday. I'm going to go back to school anyway. Or I had a rough day yesterday. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to work so I can feed my family and be reliable. So that's one thing I think about is just, I got eyes on me that need to see, like, you keep moving forward, even when it's not fun. You know what I mean? Then that would be one thing I talk a lot about. Boy, what was the other one? For me, I like to work the problem. I always think work the problem.
What do you mean by that?
It's just every little, any kind of disadvantage you have or, hiccup that you might have, adversity. find a way to work the problem and make it better. Find that angle that's gonna help you succeed and overcome that. You know what I mean? I think for me, like in season, I think one thing we talk about in our team is about we have 3 things that are going to make us different than every other program. That's how we treat each other. That's how we prepare and how we overcome adversity. And for us, that how we overcome adversity is everyone prepares like they're a starter. Everyone's ready to go when their number's called. But as a coach, having that plan in place and then work the problem. How are we going to fix this? Well, we don't have this guy. So where are we going to move with it? Instead of worrying about what we don't have, we're gonna focus on what we do have and then make it the best that it can be. And that when we were at 57 kids or whatever 3 years ago, I remember our coaches, we don't have these athletes anymore. We don't have this. And I remember telling them, I don't want to hear any more about what we don't have. We're only going to talk about what we do have. And so just stopping negative self-talk is big.
I'm ready to run through a wall. That was awesome. Let's go. Let's go play 4 quarters of football. That was great. I love that.
Yeah. One thing I think everybody can get a lot out of, and I read this in a book not too long ago. I'm not very smart, so I have to read books to get smarter.
Me too. Don't worry.
Is I read this book, and this company, they do, I think it was in one of John Gordon's books, but he said, this company has a rule that no complaints without a solution, because, complaining is like vomiting. It makes you feel better, but it makes everyone else around you sick.
Yeah.
So I actually have that written on the whiteboard in my office is no complaints without a solution. And so it's pretty cool because I think our coaches do buy into that and they understand too, like, don't go whine to Wesche unless you have a way to fix it.
Well, Coach Wesche, it's been an honor. I appreciate you. I don't say this to a lot of people, but you're probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and I appreciate everything.
Well, thank you.
And where can people find you? Like, where's a quick plug here for your program?
Yeah, hawkfootball.weebly.com is our website. Anything anybody wants to know about, we got our record books on there. We got our coaching staff on there. We have our guidelines for our program on there. That's probably the best way to reach out and get me. I have my email address and everything on that. But hawkfootball.weebly.com, and then you can find me in the Bozeman School District directory too.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. What's your dog's name?
Lily.
Lily. I like Lily. Is that a black lab?
No, she is a golden boxer cross. Both parents were pure. So
okay.
Yeah, she's in my little mutt.
One last question. What's the future look like for you, Coach?
Yeah, man. Just getting ready for next year now.
Yeah.
We're just working, putting our nose down, and I got exit interviews right now with kids, and then hopefully Christmas comes and we'll get away for a little bit, and then it's going to be out trying to support them in all their various sports through the spring, like rugby, lacrosse, track, go to as many basketball games as we can go to, and just continue to try and be as invested in our community as we can be.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate you. Thanks for sitting down, and that's a wrap. Coach Wesche.